into it. So settling down, bring the hands into the heart center, long spine. So core is engaged, gentle tucking of the tailbone. So my natural position is for my tailbone to lift a little bit. So having a tendency to really imagine this elbow lengthening. So we're lowering and elongating the lowest parts of the spine here. And then hands into the heart center. Take a moment to connect into your own thoughts, your own intention. Check in with the qualities of the mind in this moment. Check in with the qualities of the breath. Check in with your physical body. Just notice who is showing up on your mat this morning. How are you showing up for your practice? And again, there's no right or wrong. We're not trying to judge ourselves. We're just like, oh, I'm a little cranky today, or I'm a little tired today, or maybe I'm feeling just really open and receptive today. Whatever you're feeling, it's just a little snapshot to what is, and seeing ourselves in a truthful way, not in a way that's wishing we were something else. We are what we are in this moment. And then relax those hands down. We'll start to shift the weight onto the sole of one foot, send the other foot back. And we'll start to stir around. So softening into the supporting knee. Really it's really letting this whole side of the body be relaxed. Only thing engaged is really this leg. Everything else is just settling down right onto the sole of that leg. Even the toes at the base are spread wide to create a nice broad foundation for stability here. Stability and suppleness. And then first leg comes under the body. Take a moment to feel the effect of the churning, feel the difference from side to side. Shift the weight over the sole of the other foot. Send that second leg back. And hips are level. So notice that it's hard to do this and keep the hips level if your supporting leg is elongated or locked. So softening down really allows you to keep focusing on what's happening here. This is your foundation for your spine. So even though the true foundation is the ground, we want to keep the spine foundation, the pelvic girdle level when we're in standing positions, unless of course otherwise noted, but when we're doing something where we're coming into alignment. Second foot comes under the body, long spine, circling the head, starting out small, letting that circle grow larger. Feeling your way around. Relax through the throat, the teeth, the tongue, the jawline. Let the chin jangle right down towards the center of the chest for 4 or 5 breaths. So letting go of the head into gravity. Deep full breaths in and out. Just letting go. Feeling the muscles down the down the back of the body have an invitation to lengthen. Just again, gravity is doing the work here. You're just aligning the body, relaxing into it. Let gravity encourage certain parts of the body to release. On an inhale, chin comes back to the horizon. Long spine, start to circle in the opposite direction. Nice. Let those circles grow larger as you feel your way around the circle. And then start to let that circle come back to center. So making smaller and smaller circles until once again the head comes back to stillness and all sensation subsides. And then let those shoulders roll forward, up, back, and down. Squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. Open the shoulder blades wide as those elbows and hands come forward. And again, little side view here. Rolling, rounding, squeezing, lengthening. Back of the heart center lifting towards the sky. Front of the heart center pressing open towards the heavens. Everything from the waist down stays exactly as it is. So tailbone drop towards the floor. Knees are gently softened. You can clearly see there's a bend in the knees here. Just letting everything sink down into the soles of the feet and reversing the direction of the circles, feeling right side versus left side. And then shoulders back and down, elbows, forearms, wrists come together. Take a moment to loosen up those wrists. And with that gentle interlacing, there's going to be some movement in the fingers as well. So all of the joints in the wrists and the fingers, so many bones, so many connections, keeping those well lubricated. And then palms together. Inhale the hands like a book. Exhale into a wide V. Inhale, pinkies together. Exhale, extend out in front. Inhale, up and over. Really letting those arms explore, keeping the core engaged, keeping the low body supportive. Toes are spread wide. Foundation is stable. One more time. Linking this movement to your own breath. And then as the hands come down on the sides of the legs, walk those feet together. Take that moment, really spread the toes wide, lift the toes, spread them wide, lower them down, starting with the outer toes, working your way to the inner toes. Knees are touching. So trying to really fan those toes out as much as you can. It's just a practice. Shoulders back and down. Lower the center of gravity and start to stir those knees right over the tops of the feet. Circling around. And truly over time, you want those toes to create much more space between them. You want the feet to work like the hands. So you're walking on uneven surfaces. You want those feet and every part of the feet to work in a way that's going to help keep you upright. Super important as we celebrate more and more birthdays. I can only say from personal experience, my foot is a lot wider than it used to be in the toe box area because of that practice of constantly separating those toes, letting the toes relax down. Really helpful. Not so helpful when it comes to having to buy new shoes, but helpful nonetheless for balance, which is far more important. And now reverse in the opposite way and then come and step up to a shoulder width height. Head stays the center of the circle. We'll walk those hips around. Just trying to keep the head in one spot because we're actually keeping the head stationary as though we're plugging the top of the spine into the skull. So really rotating the cervical spine into the base of the skull. Reversing that in the opposite way. Knees are soft. And then start to really soften into everything. Let the whole body move in response to what's ever happening in the legs. And again, keep the feet flat on the floor. If you find your toes are lifting or you're bobbing onto your heels, that's probably one of the most important parts of all of this warm-up is to really feel rooted and grounded into the earth. Imagine your feet are sprouting roots and they're reaching down into the earth for stability and also to draw up all the nourishment that the earth has to provide you. We'll reverse those relaxed circles in the opposite way. Just feel it. Imagine making space in all the joints of the body, a little bit of space between all of the bones, greater ease of movement. And then come up to stand, feet a little bit closer in, lower the center of gravity, knees, toes, and hips stay facing forward, circling, spiraling, arms floating through space. Gently tapping up against the body. Let go of the movement, let the body find its own point of stillness. Take that time till you feel the inner sensation subside. So you're going to feel the stirring up. You want to notice, you want to observe that calming down till you're like, okay, I'm back to neutral again. And then step out for your empty coat sleeve. So long, broad center, low center of gravity, broad foundation. And really soften the legs, letting the hips swivel, let the knees rotate. Let the heels lift on this one. And then just letting go. Wait for the sensation to subside. Slowly walk the feet together, getting ready for standing cat-cow or cat-dog. Shoulders back and down. Lower the center of gravity. Inhale, tailbone towards the back of the head. Squeeze the shoulder blades back and down. Lots of intensity right here. Squeezing back and down. Lifting the tailbone. Exhale, round. Opening up the back. Inhale, heart center pressing forward. Exhale, back of heart center lifting towards the sky. And the next time the chin comes to the chest, opening up into Sarpa on an inhale, elongating through the whole front of the body, lifting towards the sky. Exhale, hinge forward. Bend into the knees and then press your way back up. Suppleness in the whole body. Do you feel a shift in your body temperature here? Do you feel a shift in your breathing? Or a shift in your circulation? How's your mind doing? Hinging forward, separate the legs a little wider. Deep bend in the knees, crown of the head and shoulders towards the floor, and gently let the body swish from side to side. Take a few deep breaths. Exhale each one with a deep breathy sigh. Really engage the core here to squeeze everything empty. Then slowly lower yourself down to a seat with the legs extended out in front. Close the eyes. Before you fuss too much, just close the eyes. Dive inside. Notice what you feel. What have you stirred up this morning? What's the breath doing? Take a couple of deep breaths. Let everything settle back down to that neutral point. And then draw the legs into a comfortable seat, making sure to support the sits bones beneath you, making sure to support the knees if they're feeling a little creaky these days. Really planting the sits bones down so pelvis is supported, shoulders roll back and down, elbows draping in towards the sides of the hips. And then let's bring the hands right into the low belly for an abdominal massage from the center of the belly over to the right, up the right side, across the rib cage and down the left side. Focusing on digestion. Super, super cold, biting cold outside. Fortunately, we don't have an extremely strong wind to go with it, but it's cold. Little nose pinching cold going on. So even more so being aware and attentive to the temperature of the body to keep the body warm. Trying to warm up the body from the inside out as well as from the outside in. So warm cooked foods, warm beverages, taking really nice, relaxing salt baths. Really super great thing to do, not just for the body temperature and digestion. If you've got Epsom salts, Dead Sea salts, that has magnesium in it, which is really great for the nervous system as well as for muscles. And also great for the skin. The skin will get dry during winter, of course. If it's going to have a tendency to get dry, it's going to get worse during the winter season. So taking a Epsom salt bath a couple times a week, even if it's just for 10 minutes. I mean, a long soak with candles is really nice, but I say a little bit more frequently is going to support you, just like the practice. You know, great to do a 90-minute practice, but much better to do 20 minutes of yoga a day if you can manage it, and just visiting any kind of practice or learning process as often as possible. Let the hands come down to the low belly, relax the shoulder blades down and back, elbows in towards the sides of the hips, crown of the head right over the sits bones. So if you feel like you're leaning forward or back, take a moment for a little bobbling. Find just the right place where the pressure is right down on those two ischial tuberosities underneath the base of the pelvis. And then on your next inhale, start to draw that breath all the way down into the belly. Imagine inflating the belly like a basketball. Exhaling. Belly deflates. Belly sinks in towards the back of the spine. So first, ignite that engine here. So the more you can intentionally work with the diaphragm to draw the breath as low as possible down into the respiratory tract. Down here in the lower parts of the lung, those are the relaxation nodules or the relaxation sensors. Up here is the sensors related to fight or flight. So if we tickle or trigger those sensors in the deepest part of our breathing, we're actually creating that relaxation response, and if we're slowing that breath down. Also, that in and out of the diaphragm, the out, intentionally pressing out, then intentionally drawing in. That is really great for digestion, stoking that fire. Imagine it's like a bellows with your fireplace at home, right? It's in and out. So we're activating from the inside out all of the muscles. We're keeping tone to everything that's important for moving the food, moving digestion through. So the breathing has so many benefits. Stay with that breath. Begin to expand it from just the belly and start to inflate all the way up into the uppermost lobes of the lungs. So inhaling, focusing on sipping in through the nose, all the way up to the top. Mention even sipping to the crown of your head. Let go. Let that exhale begin. And when you get to the bottom of the exhale, that squeezing in, that activation, drawing in and up with the diaphragm to squeeze out, to wring out those last bits of air. Stay with your Dirgha Pranayama. Hands can stay on the belly or relax on the legs, whatever's comfortable for you, but stay with the breath. Each inhale, sipping in a little more air. With each exhale, squeezing a little bit more empty. There's so many ways we can just use the physical body to stimulate itself, to release tension. We just have to figure out what the best approach is for each of us individually. It's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach, but we play with the practice and we can quickly realize which things are effective, maybe which things are not as effective for ourselves personally. Stay with the breath. 3 more deep, full rounds of Dirgha Pranayama, 3-part yogic breath. Expanding out on all sides of the body. Now on an exhale, let those hands just drape down towards the sides of the hips. On an inhale, reach for the sky, lifting tall, reaching the crown of the head away from the pelvis, pressing down into the pelvis. Exhale, we'll fan those fingers out to either side. Linking movement to breath, aligning the koshas, the physical body, which is the Annamaya kosha, the breath body, the Pranamaya kosha. When we align the first 2 sheets of the body, the first 2 koshas, there's much more of a chance that the mind, the 3rd sheet, the Manomaya kosha, is going to stay curious about what's happening here. Much greater tendency that it will not wander off. So focusing on the breath and focusing on the body together leaves little space for the wanderings of the mind. Inhale up, exhale, open up towards that right side, rotating, squeezing, bringing out, inhale up to center, rotating in the opposite direction. Just a few rounds from side to side. pressing down into the sits bones. So imagine you're feeling the sits bones as your pivot point for the spine. Rooted into the sits bones. Just like we rooted into the soles of the feet when we were standing. And then letting everything reach up towards the sky. And then come back up to center. Hands will float down in Anjali Mudra. Right to the legs to help unfold those legs out in front. All right. Let's remove anything that we're sitting on. Lean back into the hands. Let the legs flip-flop from side to side, just releasing tension again, going back to a neutral point, something that feels natural or normal for you, and then a wide stance, letting the hips and knees rotate. What are you feeling in those legs? Let the whole body start to spiral. Spiraling in one direction, rolling in the opposite direction. Just really exploring. Let the knees lower down though. This is your foundation. So legs relax first, then radiating up into the spiral to explore and feel. But you want the legs and the hips to feel completely relaxed and grounded. Strengthening that Apanavayu, the downward facing energy that is so important to help keep us feeling centered and grounded to the earth. Now let's come back to center. Grab your blocks here. I'm going to do a little dolphin dive. So lift the knees to center. The blocks are going to come over to the right side, actually to whichever side, it doesn't really matter. Drop the knees in the direction of the blocks and bring the legs into what's called a Z sit. So it's because the legs are kind of in a Z position. The top of one foot on the thigh, the other heel behind you. Bring the blocks to either side of that front facing knee and then take that moment, because right now my hips are not level and I'm leaning towards the side that has that front knee out in front. Take a moment to really re-level yourself. Like, how can you get your hips as level as possible, center of the chest in the direction of that knee that's in front, shoulders back and down, and then using the blocks to lift the level of the floor to a level that allows you to keep that spine elongated. So you've got a place to ground your hands without having to reach and roll the spine. So this is really where the blocks come in handy. Deep breath in, elongating from the tailbone up to the crown of the head. And on an exhale, hinging forward, dropping the heart center right towards that leg, pressing the crown of the head away from the tailbone. And then as you begin to inhale, drop the chin to the chest, round the spine, and imagine drawing yourself up from the back of the heart center. So just like a dolphin diving forward and back over the waves of the ocean. And using the core muscles here. So the work is not necessarily being done by the arms and the hands, even though you could take that approach. See how much you can actually activate the muscles of the core to slowly lower you down and then to slowly slide you back up. Transitioning from one place to another. Do you feel the weight shifting? As you come forward, it starts to shift onto the back of that forward-facing thigh. And then as you come up, you feel the bottom of that hip or even the sits bone touching back down again. So feel the alignment shifting where the weight is supported. Now take a deep breath in, reaching tall, reversing, drop the chin to the chest, round the spine. Forehead lowers towards the leg and then sweeps forward. Squeeze the back muscles to lift you back up. Exhaling as you hinge forward, inhaling as you lift. Dolphin dives. Come up nice and tall. Blocks can just move off to the side as the hands come down adjacent to that forward-facing thigh. Deepen your spiral here. Press into the palms, lift, and just let the body gently move. So listen to your inner teacher here. Keep the legs and hips exactly as they were. So there's no shifting here. So I'm feeling a point right underneath this part of my hip. That's really the support. Everything down here stays exactly the same. And then I'm radiating up from that point and only going as far as I can go into the spiral without my legs or my hips changing position. Otherwise, you're just turning yourself around. You're not really exploring the spiral. And notice where you feel it. I'm feeling a big band of stretch all along the back, even up across to the front of the opposite side of the rib cage. Take a few breaths here, just feel it. And then let yourself come back to center, extending the legs out in front. Take a moment just in the central position to feel the difference between the right and the left side of the body. And then we'll drop those knees to the other side. Take a moment to align ourselves to bring those hips as level as we can. Bring those blocks to either side of that front facing knee. Noticing like, okay, so for me, this hip, which is actually my left hip, even though I'm telling you it's my right hip, this hip does not settle down to the same degree as the other hip when I'm in this posture on the opposite side. So I know that this hip tends to be super tense for me. This whole side of my body tends to be tense. But notice in your experience, I'm only sharing it not so you can know about my body, but I'm sharing it because as we align things against a surface like the floor is stationary, you know, some things flatten right down to the floor, other things stay lifted. So that's really allowing us to kind of use that stationary surface as a measuring device or as a way to evaluate right to left side differences. And it really does help when you begin to hone in on that and notice it. Shoulders back and down, long spine, exhaling, just hinging forward, long spine, like you're folding a paper clip. And then inhale, this is where you round as you draw yourself back up from the back of the heart center, and lowering down, exhaling, inhaling, drawing yourself up. And bringing your awareness to the foundation and feeling the weight shift from the back of that buttock or from the back of that hip, starting to shift into the leg as the weight comes over the leg, and then rolling back again. The pressure in the back side of the body, you can feel where the alignment is based on that. On your next inhale, come up tall, long spine. Shoulders back and down. Exhale, drop the chin to the chest. Lower slowly the forehead towards the leg with a rounded spine. And then sweep forward as you inhale. Squeeze the back muscles to lift you back up. And again, hands and arms are not really working here. They're just being supported so the shoulder blades don't drape open. So you can almost even imagine doing this motion without the hands on the blocks at all. One more dive, one more lift. And coming up nice and tall, moving the blocks just off to the side so the legs, everything stays exactly as it is. Hands come right down beside you, pressing into the palms. Just explore your spiral in this direction. Even pressing that back knee away from where the crown of the head is going. So legs stay stationary, but I'm imagining I'm lengthening from the front of the body all the way down here as I'm compressing the opposite side of the body, the side that I'm spiraling towards. And just feel, where do you feel it here compared to the other side? Bring yourself right back to center, legs extended out in front. Close the eyes just for a minute, back in that neutral position. Let's bring some props over to the left side of your mat. Bring those legs back into a comfortable seat. Does not want that. Sinking down into the sits bones. Let the left hand come down towards the floor. Inhale, the right arm lifting skyward. Lengthen through that whole right side and then begin to pulse or extend over towards the left. Now we're using the side muscles to lift and to lower. So again, you got a hand there. The hand can certainly help opening and closing, but what you really want to focus on, we're not here to exercise that arm. We're here to actually tap into what's possible with the core of the body. Try to keep the shoulders aligned with that wall behind you. Lowering down and then engaging the muscles to draw you back up. And then slowly begin to lower down onto that left elbow. Right arm reaches towards the sky. We'll do some circling here. Really gentle. Soften into that right arm. Just feel what the shoulder's feeling like this morning. Make sure to circle in one direction and then make sure to reverse in the opposite way. And then let that right arm travel back up towards the sky and then eventually draping into gravity overhead. Take 4 or 5 breaths into that whole right side of the body, really into the whole body though. So again, shoulders are still aligned with that wall behind me. So I'm working the side of the body. If you're rolling forward or rolling back, you're working the front muscles or the back muscles, but you should feel a straight long line right here of that invitation for the muscles to lengthen. And then as we inflate with the breath, we're massaging that body from the inside out to create a greater depth and to release tension. Make sure your jaw, your teeth, your tongue are soft, relaxed. And then on an inhale, engage both sides of the core to draw everything up to center. Palms float down in Anjali Mudra. Close the eyes. Ooh, check in for a moment. Notice the different side to side. You might even notice a movement of energy from one side to the other, a swirling internally, a tingling until things settle back down to neutral. And then move the props over to that right side. You might feel good to shift up the positioning of the legs. Let the right hand come down this time. Inhale the left arm towards the sky. Press down into that left sits bone. And then begin that process of elongating over towards the right. Lifting and lowering. It's really opening up the body. We spend a lot of our life compressed. We also spend a lot of our life believing that we're separate from everything else around us. There's this whole idea of we have this independent self that is so separate from the natural earth, so separate from the people we love, from the energies around us. Is that true or not for you, right? So this is where we start to expand the body outward, opening it up to the potential, the possibility that everything is interconnected. There's quite a few great books by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk, and they really ask those important questions about who are you? Like, what is the self? Where do you begin? Where does the world end? And there's a lot of thought. Let's relax down onto that right elbow. There's a lot of thoughts about part of our suffering in life, part of our feeling uncomfortable, our anxiety, our sadness, is that we want to belong to something bigger. And we believe that we're this independent thing making our way through this world. And when we view things as different from ourselves, we naturally view those to some degree as something scary or something as a threat. And the more that we can recognize we're part of this bigger ecosystem, and this is not even on a spiritual level, but just on a physical level. You know, we're just a species like all the other species. And the more we can open ourselves up to that, the more that we can actually feel comfortable and feel at peace and remove some of our own suffering. So it's a paradigm shift. It's a shift in perspective. Thich Nhat Hanh, though, a lot of really great books. I'm reading one right now. Most of the books are fairly short, a couple hundred pages or less, but they have some really interesting insights to give you food for thought, food for thought about what is our truth? Who are we really? What has society taught me? What has my family taught me? And then what do I feel in my bones to be true? And how do I shift my thinking to recognize that and lose some of that fear, lose some of that suffering? It's really, really powerful. Inhaling everything back up to center, palms floating back down, pausing just for a moment. Nice. And then start to make your way into puppy stretch. We'll bring cushioning down for the knees. So relaxing onto the knees, tops of the toes relaxing down, right down onto the forearms, elbows in front, up the shoulders, belly goes soft, forehead and center of the heart lowers towards the floor. Relaxing in puppy stretch and just gently shifting the hips from side to feel the low back, maybe even circling the hips. Circling in one direction, circling in the other direction. Lift the head, bring the palms under the shoulders, spread the knees wide, big toes touching behind you. Sink the tailbone to the heels. Lower yourself all the way down in extended wide-legged child. So keep the arms extended with the elbows lifted. Lower the head down right between those upper arms and breathe. Relax everything. Relax the tops of the feet. You might even use the palms to press the tailbone closer to the heels. Take a few breaths here, breathing into the whole body. And then lift the head, press into that right left palm as the right hand flips towards the sky. Thread that right hand underneath the left arm, lowering down onto the right side of the head, the right back of the arm, the right shoulder, twisting through the torso. Again, hips stay grounded here in that child position, and take 2 or 3 breaths. See where you can relax into it to create more space in the body. Evolved baby pose, Pavrita Balasana. Relax. If it feels awkward, ask yourself if it really feels awkward, or is it just the mind telling you that it's going to feel awkward? And is it awkward? It's probably, is it uncomfortable? Hopefully it's not painful, right? So again, the mind will superimpose pain on the situation, and you can really be like, well, it's not really painful. It's just really kind of awkward, weird, feels different. Press into that left palm to lift yourself up off the right shoulder. Right arm comes back out in front. Left palm flips towards the sky, and then that left hand threads right between that right hand and the right knee as you twist and lower yourself down. Breathe. Pavrita means revolved. Balasana, baby pose, revolved baby. Sometimes we do happy baby on the back, Nanda Balasana. This is Pavrita Balasana. Couple more breaths. Inviting length into those muscles that you might be feeling sensation in. And then press into the right palm to lift yourself up. Both hands come down on either side of the head and lowering yourself down all the way. Surrender, just a couple more breaths here. Now you might feel the intensity of sensation in the inner thighs more than you did when you were spiraling, right? The focus shifts. The upper body's relaxed. And bring the palms to the floor to lift. Bring the knees right under the body. We'll start to grab the blocks here. We're going to do a little bit of a leg lengthening here. So we're going to bring both blocks to the front edge of the mat. Get my hair out of the way. Standing the blocks up tall, coming to stand on the knees. I'll press down into my, press down into my left knee, send my right leg forward. And then creating as much space as I can between that front heel and the back knee. So a nice stretch in the front of this left hip here. Sinking down, so letting myself sink right into it. And then drawing myself up, lengthening through the spine, shoulder blades back and down. So I don't want this sense of like punching. I want this sense of lengthening and support. Toes on the right foot are spread wide. Toes on the left foot, tops of the toes relaxing down. And then finding a place, again, for those blocks right under the shoulders, based on where the alignment of the spine is. Hips are still facing forward. So legs are hip distance apart, hips are facing forward. Then take a moment to see if you can balance here. So bringing one or both hands onto the top of that right knee or the right thigh. Adjusting your gaze maybe towards the horizon to keep that neck long, to keep the chin level with the horizon. And if that feels good, maybe lifting the arms, coming into a modified version of Warrior One, so a knee down version, always an option that's available. Breathing. Some of you might like to come into a crescent, so lifting the gaze and the heart center towards the sky as you squeeze the back muscles and press the belly forward. Crescent pose. So you can explore all those different variations based on what's right for you today. Take a deep breath in. And on the exhale, hands are going to float back down to the block as we sink the hips back and lengthen over that right leg. So just moving forward and back and letting the hands and the arms come to whatever position feels right for you this morning. You can keep the hands on the block if that's what your body wants. So any variation, hinging forward as you inhale, exhaling as you come back and lengthen over that leg, that right leg. Again, this is all about transitions. It's not about the end point. So you want to feel secure and in charge, comfortable, relaxed the whole way through. You're feeling anxious. Maybe you want to choose a different variation of the posture. If it's not feeling smooth, see if you can smooth out the breath. Now, the next time you hinge back with that right leg extended, lengthen through the spine, lower the blocks a little bit more. Imagine you're hinging from this hip crease right here, the top of the right thigh, and you're going to press the crown of your head far forward, keeping the spine long, supporting the hands on the blocks. Add some movement into that right leg, that extended right leg. Just breathe. Great place for some moans, groans, and sighs here. And then you can lower those blocks even more or even let the hands come to the floor. Open the shoulder blades wide behind you. Let the spine round. Let the forehead roll towards that right knee. Leg is now stationary. Breathe into it. 4 or 5 breaths here. Just relaxing. Upper body is just draping over that extended right leg. Lots of softness in the back of that right knee. Even gently lift and lower with the inhale and exhale as though you're riding that wave of breath. The swelling of the belly lifting you slightly off of that right thigh, and then the exhalation letting you lower back down. And then bring the hands back to the blocks to help lift the torso, slide that right leg back. Press down into the right knee, send the left leg forward. Create that lunge here. So find that lunge for yourself. much space as feels comfortable between the left hip, the right hip and the left knee, and then drawing yourself up nice and tall, placing your drishti, so your visual focus, making sure your breath is smoothed out, and see if you'd like to bring the hands onto that front knee or one hand, whatever works for you. Maybe lifting the arms up, coming into that modified version of Warrior One. Or maybe squeezing the back muscles, lifting into Crescent. Breathe. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, hands float back to the blocks. At the same time, you sink that hip back and lengthen over the left leg this time. Inhale forward. Exhale. Sinking back. Feel that, like that gentle invitation for the muscles to lengthen. That's by shifting one way and the other. And then as you sink back, lengthen through the spine, lower the blocks. Hinging from the hip, lengthening over that leg, add some movement into the extended left leg here. Even rocking the hips from side to side. I always want to have a sigh on this one. I don't know why. I think maybe I'm holding my breath when I come into that crescent pose a little bit, you know? So then there's always the like, oop, you need to release that tension you just built up. That's what sighing does. So I'm human too, like all of us. And so I'm always learning more about my practice. Hands can lower down, leg comes to the stationary spot, round the spine, roll the forehead towards the leg. Relax, surrender. Again, another great place to notice, you know, how close you come in proximity to that extended leg is telling you quite a bit about if you're holding tension, more tension in that hip than perhaps in the other side. So notice, how does this side feel? Soften into the back of that left knee. Lots of softness. 4 or 5 breaths here. Really lengthened out through the whole body now. Nice opening of everything. Bring the hands back onto the blocks to lift. Slide that left knee back again. We'll start to make our way into bent knee downward facing dog. So blocks can move off. Roll the toes behind you. Lift the knees just enough to send the tailbone back over the heels and drop the head between the upper arms. So notice working on the spine first and then walk the legs in place. You might feel this more in the calf muscle since we just lengthened a lot through the hamstrings. I think that previous stretch hits the hamstrings almost a little bit more than the calves. So notice if you're feeling the calves now. Take some time to lengthen those muscles. And then settle the feet hip distance apart. Drop the heels towards the floor. Tailbone lifts towards the sky. Head relaxes between the upper arms. And take 4 or 5 breaths in downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. What can you soften into here? And still sustain the shape of your down dog. Couple more breaths. And then slowly bend into the knees. Walk the hands back towards the feet. Coming into a squat. Relax the crown of the head and shoulders towards the floor. Take a moment here. Might feel good to just move the body slightly. Make sure those feet are in alignment, hip distance apart. And then with the knees bent, bring the hands up to the shin just below the bent knees. Drop the chin to the chest. Take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, press into the soles of the feet. Lengthen through the legs as you slowly roll yourself up to standing. When you arrive, before you fix anything, dive in. Check out the qualities of the breath. Check out the physical body, especially the alignment on the soles of the feet. Noticing the evenness or lack of evenness and the pressure on the soles of the feet. Check in with the qualities of the mind. And then open the eyes. We'll remove anything that's going to trip us up here. Come right into mountain pose. Feet are hip distance apart, shoulders back and down. Rotate those hands forward. Long spine. Settling down into the soles of the feet. Spread those toes wide. And then inhale those arms up, coming into your full expression of Tadasana, mountain pose. Breathe. And make sure you haven't lifted the tailbone. So when the arms lift, so we're all in alignment here, and then the arms lift, and there's a tendency for the belly to do this. That's just a natural tendency. So there's this whole idea that when you start to radiate upwards, you also have to press down into that tailbone to keep the core engaged and to keep that spine as long and in alignment as possible. So breathing into it, 4 or 5 breaths in your Tadasana here. Keep the front and back of the heart center wide open. So resist the urge to try to do something like this. Yes, I can bring my arms into the side of my head. It's creating a lot of constriction here. I'm not really out for creating constriction during my yoga practice. I'm here to open. Imagine you want to open, especially across this area. So this is not going to serve it. I can automatically feel tension through the 5th chakra, the Vishuddha. Take a deep breath and reach for the sky. On the exhale, we'll do a little squat. So exhaling, left hand's going to come forward, right arm back. Gaze is going to rotate behind you towards that right hand. Squatting down, inhale up to center. Exhale, opposite direction. Again, transitioning in and out. So as you come into the squat, check out your hands. You want them to be parallel with the floor. They might feel like they're parallel with the floor, but then when you visually check them out, you realize they're not at all. So it's building on that sense of where are we in space? Like, where do we think we are in space versus where are we actually in space? And that's the thing that hangs us up and we start to tumble and fall. So we want to know the truth of where we are in space, not just what we think we're doing. We can work on that as well through our yoga practice. And come right up to center. Let the palms open up towards the sides of the space and take as long as they like to float back down towards the sides of the body. Ooh, my shoulders are feeling tense today. What are you feeling on your mat? Relaxing all the way down. Letting the hands completely release. Once again, take a moment to check in with yourself. Make sure your breath is feeling smooth and even. And then let the eyes open. You're going to shift the weight onto the sole of your right foot. Just letting, we're coming into a one-legged balance pose. We'll do a little stork and dancer for those of you that know. So starting to create that pillar of strength coming right down that whole right side of the body. Take a moment to settle your gaze on a stationary spot. Relax the hands out. And then see, what's going to happen if you try to lift that left foot, bending into the knee, drawing it towards the buttocks. Now, in a perfect world, we're going to lift that knee, grab onto the ankle or the instep here, and draw that heel in towards the buttocks. And as we do that, we want the inner knees to be touching. So we want everything to kind of be girdled together. And that's going to require you to roll the shoulder back so that you can point the left elbow in towards the center of the back. And that's going to really help keep the legs together, which is the important part of this. It's going to kind of create a unit. And then the right arm's just going to lift towards the sky. Breathe. Coming into Stork Pose. Now you can try to explore dancer. We're going to hinge forward, press that left foot towards the left hand, arching the back as you hinge forward. Keep adjusting your gaze here so that the back of the neck stays long. And you can bring your fingers to a table, to a wall, have something in front of you. Breathe. Dancer pose. Naranja. And slowly releasing out. Both feet come to the floor, hands come into the body, close the eyes. What do you feel? Where do you feel it? And then let's try that other side. So press down into your left foot this time. Again, settle the gaze, smooth out the breath. Take as long as you need to get that nervous system calm. So again, breath is anxious, body is going to reflect that. Feet are not feeling settled, the body is going to reflect that, right? So we can't have a posture that we're not building from the ground up, really settling first both the physical body by checking in on our foundation and then settling the breath, right? If your breath is anxious, good luck, really, because that's going to make the body be like, wait, I'm not getting enough oxygen. How do you think the body's going to feel when it's not feeling like it's getting enough oxygen? So shifting the weight onto that left leg, see if you can lift that right leg. Now again, I should have mentioned this last time. If you cannot grab onto the leg, this is where the strap comes in handy. Looping the strap around that leg behind you can allow you to really relax through that shoulder and lifting that left arm towards the sky to come into Stork Pose. Keep the core engaged. So again, notice if the belly already wants to tuck out. So for Stork, you want to keep the spine in alignment here. And then see if you want to start to hinge. Reach. And if you've never tried it with the strap, you might want to try it with the strap. There's a greater sense of openness here that might help support your practice. I think you should try it anyway, even if you don't feel like that strap is quote unquote necessary. Brings it into a different type of posture. And then lowering yourself back so that both feet come to the floor. Hands come into the body. Check in with yourself here. Stork and dancer. Let's do some sun breaths to start to come back down to earth. So feet hip distance apart, inhaling, reach for the sky, optional back bend here. Exhale, hinging. Bend into the knees, round, squeeze, empty. Inhale all the way up. Exhale all the way down. Inhale. Back up to standing. Exhale, palms. Right down in Anjali Mudra. 3 more times, use your own breath as a guide. And I highly encourage you to fully inflate with the breath, fully squeeze empty. You're using your body like a bellows. So the shape of your body, especially when you're hinging down, squeezing and rounding, really empties out, helps to support that action of the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles to really squeeze empty. So if you stirred up anything during your practice today, now's the time to help with that digestion of it. You don't even need to know what it is. Maybe an emotion bubbled up. It could be happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, silliness. It could be any of those things. Just notice the wave of emotion as it comes to the surface. Say bye-bye. Just let it go. Or enjoy it for what it is. Next time you hinge forward, walk your way back out into your downward facing dog. Settling into down dog. You might walk the feet side by side. Take a moment for 3-legged dog. lifting that foot towards the sky or just lifting it behind you, adding some movement. Make sure to let the second leg have a turn. Then slowly lower down, both feet lower onto the knees, lower onto the tops of the feet. Send the tailbone back to the heels, extending the hands out in front. For an extended child's pose, take a few breaths here. Still breathing now from the tailbone all the way up to the fingertips. And then see if you'd like to bring the hands down to either side of the feet with the palms facing up. Feel the difference in the shoulders. Let the shoulders roll open. Take a few more deep, full breaths here, inflating the body in all directions. And then just let the natural breath come back into the body. Surrender, so everything's soft. Imagine you're settling in for a nap in this position, just for a few more rounds of natural breath. It might feel good to gently shake or rock the body from side to side here. And bring the palms to the floor to lift. Lower onto one hip so you can bring those legs forward. Make sure you have everything you need nearby for Shavasana before you lower down for a little cool down. And we'll slowly lower down onto the back. Anchor through the shoulders. So lift the head, spread the shoulder blades wide, and then lower that all back down. Make sure you're feeling anchored through the low back. And then knees can lift over the pelvis. Gently rock the body, roll the body like a rolling pin, rolling the body from side to side. Bringing your focus to the back of the body. The back of your body is now your foundation. So we had foundation on the hands and knees. We had foundation on the soles of both feet. We had foundation on one foot. We had foundation on our sits bones. And now we have our foundation for Shavasana is the whole back of the body. Bring any rolling to stillness, hands over the low back. Shoulders are still touching down behind you. Circle those knees. Pressing down into the sacrum, the tailbone, and either side of the pelvic girdle. Just noticing what you feel. Feel even? Is there sensitivity? Releasing the hands, let those legs reach for the sky, little point and flex, little movement, and also letting those hands and those arms have a moment or two here. Just exploring, let the body do whatever feels good here. Try something new with those legs and hands this morning. Okay, you can be as silly as you like. Nobody's watching. Just listen to your inner child and your inner teacher here. Now knees are going to splay outward as the soles of the feet come together. Grab onto the ankles, the shins, or even bringing the first two fingers of each hand in between the big toe and the second toe. And then lift the heels towards the sky. Try to tuck those knees in towards the armpits, coming into happy baby, Ananda Balasana. Relaxing through the inner thighs, even adding a little bit of rolling from side to side. Try to keep the shoulders grounded behind you, back of the head relaxed. Ananda Balasana. And then start to make your way to your most comfortable position for Shavasana, reclining, seated, or otherwise. Take a moment also if there's any last minute stretching or movement that's going to help you feel more complete in your practice or to help let you relax down a little more deeply. So making your way into whatever position is going to work for you here. Relaxing down. As you begin to come to a deeper stillness, just letting go. So being the observer of your experience here, letting the witness, which is the fourth sheath of the 5 koshas of the body. So the witness is the thing that notices the workings of the mind and notices when the mind is kind of spiraling on its own. So there is that deepest part of ourself, which is truly closer to our truth, closer to our intuition than the crazy thinking mind that has been influenced much more deeply by our conditioning, by our upbringing, by our family dynamics. So what is that part of you that notices when the mind is going a little crazy or distracted and can bring you back? That's the part, that's the nugget, that's the essence, that's the closest thing to who we truly are, is that witness consciousness. It can be objective and not scolding, have a great sense of humor about the human tendencies for the mind to just be a little crazy every once in a while. It's just what it is. So strengthening that by bringing yourself back to your practice as you relax down, bringing yourself back to the physical body. If you have to bring yourself back to concentration on the breath, that works. But resist the urge for the mind to take you outside of the space and outside of this time in this moment. Just let go. Notice if there's anything in the body that's clenching, facial muscles, hands, feet, or perhaps you've gotten a little chilly. Take a moment to make yourself even 1% more comfortable, to honor your digestion, relaxation, and integration this morning. As you continue to relax down, begin to bring your awareness into the mind, checking in, noticing what are the qualities of the mind in this moment. What was the effect of your practice this morning on the qualities of the mind? And then scanning the body, the Annamaya kosha, the physical sheath, scanning it for sensation. Noticing the qualities of the physical body in this moment. Notice the effect of your practice this morning on the physical body. And then notice the breath as it is, without changing it initially. It's said that it's impossible to notice the breath without changing it. But you can decide for yourself if that's true or not. Just the act of noticing its thought will actually affect a change in the breath. And then begin to deepen the breath as a signal of your intention to transition out of your practice and to transition into the rest of your day. But we're still practicing, so just let those long, slow, deep breaths fill up the body, expanding the body in all directions. And as the breath expands, invite small movements to come back into the body. And then if you're reclining on the back, take that moment to come to a reclining position on one side, a much gentler re-entry into your day, allowing the blood flow to shift up a little bit. Relax down for a few more rounds of breath. And taking all the time you'd like to lift yourself back up to a comfortable seat, hands in the heart center. And take a few more moments for your own thoughts, to check in with your inner teacher, or to reconnect or connect to any intention or affirmation you might like to focus on today. Gratitude for sharing this morning's practice and for you sharing your energy with each other. Om Shanti, 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 peace, peace, peace. Jai Bhagwan, Namaste, Jai Jai. Stay healthy and safe, everybody. Have a really great week. Thanks for being here. Bye now.